This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Tuesday, the 30th of April, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. A probe will be done into the public account statement, which detected an error in the country's revenue data for 2023. The findings of the investigation will be reported to the Public Service Commission and any other relevant office holder for their review and appropriate actions. Confirmation of this from Finance Minister Colin Imber during a statement made in the Senate yesterday, Monday. Minister Imber explained he did not prepare nor amend the public accounts, but he consulted with his staff in the ministry about the accusation of improper conduct by the ministry. Meanwhile, Opposition Senator Wade Mark called for all documentation and records pertaining to this development to be brought forward and provide full disclosure. Senator Mark claims transparency in the matter is critical. An independent Senator Derek Timal also wanted to know whether there was evidence to indicate statements were amended by January 31st, 2023, or 4. In response, Minister Imber said guidance and legal advice counsel was sought on the matter. And independent Senator Hazel Thompson yesterday said the Auditor General Jayanti Ramdas is owed an apology. Thompson said she was astounded that the Attorney General, Reginald Amor Senior Counsel, told Ramdas she should seek independent legal counsel when she wrote to him for advice. At the Senate sitting yesterday, government received, however, independent senators voiced concern over the imbroglio which unfolded between the Office of the AG, the Office of the Ministry of Finance, and the Auditor General's office. 14 firearms belonging to national security personnel were lost, stolen, or went missing between 2018 and 2023. Information revealed on Monday's sitting of the Senate by Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines. Minister Hines indicated 8 of the firearms belonged to the Defense Force, 4 to the Police Service, and 2 to the Prison Service. In a supplemental question posed to him, Minister Hines was asked for information respecting the proper oversight of the weapons. Meanwhile, 41 privately owned firearms were reported lost, stolen, or missing between 2018 and 2023. The Senate was given details relating to a breakdown on the legal firearms over the 6-year period. Minister Hines was asked about issues relating to public safety and monitoring in light of this development. He admitted holders of the firearms should do what is required to ensure firearms are properly secured. And staying with the issue, licenses were approved for the period 2018 to 2023 to new firearms dealers, 57.8%. Before this, the number of such licenses stood at 19, which provided such services across the country. Minister Hines was asked if there was proper oversight in light of criminal levels in the country. He admitted there was room for improvement in this area, adding the matter is under investigation. June this year is the timeline being given for the completion of work by field enumerators at the CSO, collecting social statistics and other proper data pertaining to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in the country. The findings of the survey will be published in the first quarter of next year. This process seeks to gain information on a variety of critical areas to ensure sustainable communities and cities. Minister of Planning and Development Penelope Beckles revealed why the survey is conducted and the importance of it in the Senate. Opposition MPs Rodney Charles, Rushton Paré, Anita Haynes-Alleyne, and Dr. Ragoobarsingh have hit back at accusations made against them by UNC political leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar during the party's anniversary service this past Sunday. Charles went further, saying if he provides a history of breaking beach in Parliament, as Persad-Bissessar claimed, it will embarrass senior members of the UNC, including Persad-Bissessar. They spoke out yesterday after Persad-Bissessar criticized the MPs, including Dinesh Rambali, who were absent from last Friday's vote in Parliament on a government motion. The motion was passed by 19 government votes to 14 UNC votes. Charles, Paré, Ragoobarsingh, Rambali, and Haynes-Alleyne have been calling for internal UNC elections and were all absent from the sitting. And personal and private reasons were cited by Tabakate Member of Parliament Anita Haynes for her decision to leave the Parliament on April 26 last week, Friday. MP Haynes said even the ones who believed internal elections should be called when they are constitutionally due are also human beings and from time to time may have emergencies. She defended her work ethic, claiming this can be verified by Parliament's records, adding her interest is in advancing policy over propaganda and personal attacks. In some tragic news, a 15-year-old boy lost his life in a road accident along the Priority bus route on Sunday night, while his sister remains injured and in hospital. The deceased has been ID'd as Alejandro Suku of Glenside Gardens, Tunapuna Road, Tunapuna. Reports indicate Alejandro and the driver of the vehicle, his sister Shania Suku, 23, were making their way home at about 9:05 p.m., driving along the Eastern Main Road in the Mount Lambert area when the vehicle crashed into a wall. Passers-by managed to extract the brother and sister from the vehicle before it caught fire. Unfortunately, Alejandro died at the scene. Shania is listed in stable condition at the Mountain Hospital. We end with some good news in sport. Jeremy Richards won gold for Trinidad and Tobago in the Puma men's 200-meter title at the USA TF Bermuda Grand Prix in Bermuda on Sunday night. Running in lane 6 in the final, Richards clocked 20.39 seconds, beating USA's Matthew Balling and Nigerians Odundi Chucky, who took silver and bronze respectively. So we congratulate Jeremy Richards on his continued good form. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning to you.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
Good morning, neighbors. It is 8 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock on this, the last day of April. It is the 30th day of April. It's come and pretty much gone. But welcome to the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Good morning to all those watching us on Me TV, Flow Channel 111, Digicel Channel 20, and of course with Amplia Channel 117. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It is 24 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 26 at Crown Point in Tobago. And traffic-wise, pretty much from Freeport towards Sugargonis, you've got some traffic, and then volume from Charlieville towards the interchange Trin City. You've got some volume. You'll get some traffic as you pass Swim Call on the Beetham. All right. Of course, before I say hellos, let's say good morning, good out to Super Paul. Of course, when Richard Ragoobarsingh will join us, we have Shane and Ruben in the mix. My name is Steve Khan. Morning, Pablo.
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone online on Me TV and on the Power 102 app and everywhere in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world.
Yes, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm good. Surprisingly not sleepy.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, my headache is pretty much gone this morning. It's lingering a little bit, but it was a bad one. Since Saturday, I had that. But, you know, life goes on, so you have to paddle around.
I can tell you what the problem is.
I can tell you what the problem was. But you tell me, Paul. You go ahead. You go ahead.
No. Private medical information should be private.
Oh, okay.
Those pills have some side effects, so you have to be careful. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've been told.
Mm-hmm. And have you been told what the side effects are?
Headache.
Being one. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Prolonged rigidity.
Mm-hmm. Behave, Paul. Behave. It's too early.
Rigor mortis. Prolonged rigor mortis.
Oh, Lord.
Unwanted rigor mortis sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you have a couple of days. Drink a lot of water and you'll be all right.
I have. I actually been drinking a lot of coconut water.
I hope you had fun.
You know what it was? It's one of my air conditioning units had a leak, a gas leak.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. And I did not know.
You were inhaling Freon?
Yeah, well, whatever gas it is, and that's what kicked it off. I had it repaired yesterday, but I didn't know, so we got it rectified. Had to call Guevara and Company and say, "Help, help," and they responded. So we're good to go now. Just to linger. I probably drank about 6 liters of coconut water in the last couple of days. Since Saturday, tons of coconut water.
Where do you get your coconut? But I've been looking and I can't find.
Oh no, I've been buying from the same guy for over a decade, and he does not come out on the road anymore. He's at home, so I just go and I pass and I pick up my bottles and I go. So, but yeah, he's sold out by 8 o'clock in the morning. He's sold out, and you know how I like it. So, and if I get there early and he's cutting it up, I have my belly full of jelly, which I just love.
You missed the whole point of the question.
I probably did. So what's going on?
Well, your condolences to the family. Let's start with the good news. Congrats to Jerome Richards,
Yeah.
who won gold for TNT in the red, white, and black in the Puma men's 200-meter title at USATF Bermuda Grand Prix on Sunday evening. He beat out the USA and Nigeria's Ododi Shodi. Jerome clocked 20.39 seconds in the 200 meters. Good for him. Keeps his good form going.
Yeah, well done. Especially
That's
with the
great
Olympics going
news.
around.
Sad news. And I really saw, because I emceed a fashion show on Sunday night. And
Work it.
emceeing model. I did the modeling at Over. And when I was coming home, this is about to turn into home, I saw a fire service truck on the bus route and several other a police vehicle and stuff. Says, well, what the hell is going on? This is about, I would say about 9:30, quarter past
Yeah.
half 9.
Yeah.
To find out now, sadly, it was an accident where a brother and sister were in a car and the 15-year-old boy lost his life in the accident.
Mm-hmm.
And the sister is warded in stable condition at hospital. So condolences to the Suku family. 15-year-old Alejandro Suku died. They're from Tunapuna. And his sister Shania, 23, who was driving. But the story is weird because they say they were driving along the Eastern Main Road. They could not have been driving along the Eastern Main Road because the accident occurred on the bus route.
Oh.
So I think they crashed into a wall. They crashed into the bridge, the bridge walls that they put up at the side of the bridges. I
Yeah.
don't know if sister lost control of the car
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, but she crashed into the can and the brother died. Good Samaritans extracted the boy and the sister from the vehicle, and it burst into flames. Unfortunately, the young man, the 15-year-old, died at the scene. So that's some really sad news.
Yeah, that is sad. So I saw there was another accident by crossing in San Fernando. I didn't hear of any fatalities. Thank goodness for that. But yeah, so many. There was one on Sunday on the Beetham by NP and Ragoobarsingh. He pretty much went up on the medium and it was on top of the guardrails. All four wheels were off the ground.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I saw a video of that.
And last evening, I saw also a kind of ditch at the side of the road. Where was that? In Barataria somewhere. You know, be careful on the roads, please. Please be careful.
Yeah, there's so many vehicles. One little, twitch the steering wheel.
It doesn't even have to be another vehicle. You could just lose control if you're not being careful sometimes.
If you're not being careful, yeah. And more, Paul, I am seeing people not using their hands-free devices for their mobile phones in vehicles.
You're absolutely right. Because they're not enforcing as vigilantly as they were many years ago.
No, they're not. So people are talking, and you can actually tell they're talking. I saw a guy taking a corner and pretty much at his own little time because he was on the phone.
Steve, I see people all the time. Light change, They stopping. I saw one stop in the middle of the highway because he on the phone.
Yeah, that happened to
Stop.
me. I was behind him.
Traffic moving, and he there on the phone, and we had to pop the horn for him to grab the phone and drive.
Yeah, right between the Tobago Ferry Terminal and Independence Square. Guy stopped in the middle there for no reason on extreme right lane because he was on the phone and they wasn't paying attention. You know.
You gotta be careful on the phone. The drama in the UNC continues between the so-called 5 dissidents. Mrs. Pasabi Sessa, and there's a call from many of the party faithful for them to be expelled. But I mean, it's very difficult to expel an MP. You have to go to the people who put them there, the constituents.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a petition involved, and you have to get a certain number of votes to actually move them. The only people who couldn't remove them is the people who put them there.
Yeah.
Unless they bring them down, they force to resign.
Having their internal elections.
Mm-hmm. You're sorry?
Tell mommy hello. Hi, mommy. No, I'm asking if the UNC is having their or going to have their internal elections.
So, Steve, I don't know. But you're asking me, partner.
You go in the Red House, you might, little birdies love to whisper to your ears.
Election.
All right. While you do that, let me say good morning. Again, both here on WhatsApp. Let's say good morning, good on to Garth Cillier, John Cato, Oliver Man Warren, Slick Money Grip, Rena Boodoo Jennings, Wendy and James Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida, Maria Cillier, Boy Badesi, CJ New York, Subash Mangal, Andre, Doreen Pierre, Moni D. Pierre, Gloria Gray, Shanifa Ali from Grandy, Carol Guevara, Carol Joseph, Showin Kerr, good morning. Michael Robinson in Yokohama, Japan. Good morning to you. Evans David, Yolando Cordner, Trinidad Margot, out in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I know that Treasure Coast Mall. I know Port St. I don't need a map to go to Port St. Lucie. I know it that well. Treasure Coast Mall. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Marcia Rock, good morning. Lister Lodge, good morning to you. Let's say good morning going out on WhatsApp. I have GNC Auto Security, Trevin Rima, Dan Raj, good morning to you. Sankofa, good morning. Hope all is well. There's some messages of folks sending us. You too can send us a message via Facebook or YouTube. And of course, those watching us on television, on Me TV, Flow Channel 111, Digicel Channel 20, and Ampere Channel 117. You can send us a WhatsApp at 318-1021. And let's say good morning. Going out to the one, the only, Richie Rich.
Hi, good morning, guys. And good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning to our listeners wherever you are and wherever you are watching us to, because it's not just about listening. We are also viewable.
Yeah. Morning to Richard Phillip out in New York City. Ian Andrew, Ian Lee. I knew you as Ian Lee.
Good morning, Richard. I wonder if Richard Phillip I know.
Istanbul. Morning to you.
I wonder if that's Richard Phillip I know. If it is, well, good morning to you, Richard. If it is you.
If it is you that you know, Richie Rich.
Yep.
Yes, so Mrs. Pasabi Sessa and Dr. Bunal said that Dr. Bunal said that had the 5 people stayed in Parliament, they could have, quote unquote, toppled the government because there was a motion and they could have won. Because I do think all government persons were in the chamber when the vote was called, and the 5 gave varying reasons. I know Anita Haynes put out a statement defending her track record, and Rodney Charles also said that if people want to talk about breaking beach in Parliament, he said if he provides a history of those who broke beach in Parliament and had been absent partially or wholly from sittings, it will embarrass many senior members of the UNC, including Mrs. Pasabi Sessa.
How could they have toppled the government, though?
I don't know.
I try to figure it out myself.
It's a strange turn of phrase for members, being present.
Well, like,
For all
and
intents and
cause a snap
purposes,
election. And cause a snap election.
I think it's much ado about nothing, quite frankly.
What, the UNC internal thing?
No, the issue of at least of the 5 people not being there, because the government has a simple majority, and that's all that was required for that, and it's not a super important issue.
Well, I don't think it's a simple thing at all. I think it's the sign of the discord now reaching inside the parliament. It's very unlikely to me that the 5 people who are the center of controversy in the party calling for internal elections all are not there at the same time. And if this is the start of the discord reaching inside the parliament, what happens if a critical vote comes up? It may have been a simple thing this time, but what happens if it's a critical vote coming up and it happens again? I don't think it's a simple thing at all. I think it's
give me an example of a critical vote that they are required to be there.
Well, anything. The government brings a vote where the UNC has a particular policy perspective that they disagree with the government on. Let's say
because it can't be for constitutional change or
no,
anything like that, because they have not been supportive. They have not been supportive of that.
But let's just say to give the Minister of Finance more powers to do something, or the Prime Minister more powers to do something that doesn't abridge constitutional issue. I think it's a serious thing, because it may now be perceived as the discord in UNC is now affecting the vote in the Parliament, and it may not really matter. But let's just suppose, as happened on Friday, 2-3 members of the government are absent, and the opposition can win by mere dint of having their all 19 or 18 votes present. They would miss an opportunity. It is not a simple thing. It is a sign that the discord may now be slipping into the parliament, and the UNC's ability to offer as strong as they can opposition in the House of Representatives.
Well, if you have a certain amount of dissent and internal wrangling, it's logical that it may come into parliament, and it may come into and it's in the public arena anyway, which is to me more important than 5 people not being in parliament, because the public arena is what matters, because they're the people that vote.
Yeah, I disagree.
You are a year away from a general election. That is more concerning.
Well, to me, it's another step into the discord when it makes its way into the parliament. And nobody in telling me the 5 just happen to be outside at the same time for different reasons. It means that now there seems to be some sort of coalesced approach to dealing with the party as a whole and their representation in the House of Representatives.
But there has been, I mean, in a sense, the dissent in the UNC is not new with regard to Kamala Perssa's leadership, especially in terms of taking the UNC into government. And so you've had previous very high-profile dissenters, and the status quo continue to exist. I don't know how different this version of the dissent is going to be in terms of initiating the change. That obviously there is some level of discontent in terms of the UNC that has been lasting, that has been there for a while, and it just seems to be building gradually and gradually and gradually.
I don't think it will have much effect heading to the election. They will do what they have to do. They will screen. They will screen for candidates, and we will see if any of the 5 are chosen by the screening committee to go up for their respective seats. Rodney Charles has already indicated that he's not making himself eligible.
Yeah,
it will have to be the other 4. We will see if they are chosen or if reasons are proffered. If they are not chosen and persons who are made to replace them are as is being circulated in some quarters, in purported safe seats, are chosen to replace them. There are already some jabs being thrown across the parliament for in the Senate regarding possible replacements by persons in the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, all parties are aspirational to leadership,
But they have to do it.
and else why are you in it? Unless you're there as a pressure group. But ultimately, you aspire to leadership. And obviously, there is something wrong in terms of the UNC coalescing on a united front in terms of facing the People's National Movement. Obviously, there is some substantive issue. And of course, a lot of people say it's the leadership, at least the dissenters say it's the leadership of the party. Sometimes they don't identify Kamala Persad specifically, but they generally say leadership of the party in question. And if it is that you have that kind of inner wrangling that is so public, and you have already a jaded voting public, where you have a percentile that will always vote PNM, you will have a percentile that will always vote UNC on a certain level, and then you also have that independent group that may or may not vote, or may vote either party depending on how they feel on election day or how they look at the issues, and how it plays into their own personal lives, that they may say, okay, I'm voting X, I'm voting Y, but they're not committed to either party. How is all of this playing out? Especially as you are a year away or less to a general election, it doesn't augur well for UNC at this point.
Following what you said, any party in the history of the country who loses elections, and particularly 2 national elections, the leaders are going to face challenges.
Yeah.
Because you said parties are in it to lead the country. You're not there philosophically to remain in opposition forever, right? And the UNC has lost 2 elections in 2015 and 2020, and they are, as any other party, aspiring to win an election and govern the country. So it happened when Mr. Manning lost the election, called the snap and lost, when there were people in the PNM who were adamant that, well, it's time for a change, and the change happened. Okay? That is quite typical in the political arena. It happens all over the world. As a matter of fact, around the world, you lose an election, you typically step down.
Yeah, generally.
After one. You understand? You lose a national election. Okay, let's see who can take us into victory next time. It didn't happen in this case. The UNC is heading to a 3rd national election under Mrs. Persad Bissessor. We will see what happens next year. And it's as simple as that. But any party that has faced defeat on 2 national elections is going to have some issues in terms of people asking, should we try a new leader or not? And can this present iteration of the party take us to victory? Because it has not been had not been the history in the last 2 national elections. So we see how it goes. We shall see how it goes. And then when you start to lose, seemingly, let me say, lose control of as many as 5 out of, is it 18? Wendell and everybody, 18 or 19? 5 out of 19 people, and you are not sure of what their vote will be, whether or not you think it's a simple or special majority needed to pass a particular amendment or a bill, it starts to chip away at your credibility as a cohesive unit in the parliament. Because now, if you could stay home, or if you could not be there for whatever reason to get at the same time, it speaks to what will happen in the future. Parliament always discussing, debating bills and amendments. So we'll see how it goes for the next couple of weeks. It could mean that the discord is intensifying and has now made its way inside the halls of the Red House. So we will see how it goes moving forward. Meanwhile, I could imagine the Prime Minister must have his coffee and his popcorn. Have his coffee
Just watching on the
Watch.
reality TV UNC style.
Reality TV unfolding before you. You understand?
Oh God, hey.
So we will see how it goes. As I said, the bacchanal between the Ministry of Finance, the Office of the Attorney General, and the Auditor General made its way into the Senate yesterday. The Minister of Finance was able to convince 8 of the 9 independent senators to vote for the extension in time for the Treasury Department to submit more documentation, and the other part of it was for the Auditor General to be able to consider the additional information regarding to the purported understatement of the revenue position of the country in 2023. And I asked him when he was on his legs 2 questions. One, if this extension is indefinite. He said no, it's specifically for fiscal 2023, so it's not intended to go into subsequent time frames, right? Reporting time frames. And 2, can he confirm or refute the allegations that were contained, suggesting that the documentation to support the $3 billion extra that is said to have been understated, and the state was seeking to have amended in the Auditor General's report, was supplied? And he said he didn't know. He was not aware, So at the end of the day, it's an interesting conundrum, because the report was sent up to the Parliament. It was not late. The Minister of Finance says he has until May 23rd by law, too late. It was called upon. He was called upon too late, and he, just like any house, went silent yesterday, which means they did not have the right to late yet. Obviously, because their position is that they're giving the Auditor General an opportunity to consider, because he can't instruct the Auditor General to do nothing. You understand? To consider the new information being sent by the Treasury unit, and we'll see how it unfolds. Now the extension has now been approved, but that doesn't mean she has to do anything. And given the confrontational way this has developed, we'll see what happens, because she doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to change anything. If she thinks that, well, enough evidence has not been presented to warrant her changing her position of the report that's now in the possession of the Parliament.
But the Minister of Finance also indicated that he was going to have an investigation done, and because I think the Auditor General indicated that there was a backdating of certain documents,
which he denied flatly, and said he's seeking legal advice on.
So he says he's going to have an investigation done, and to see if that happened and when it happened, etc. What version of that? It's what I saw on the news last night.
Well, the amount of timelines that were proffered, after a while you get confused. But I guess an investigation is warranted to see why the supposed error took place in the first place, and what can happen in the future to prevent such a thing. Because even every commentator was saying they've never heard this ever happen. I certainly can't. In the history of national audited reports being presented to the Parliament, never heard about it. But the minister did say there's some new system, and taxes are just one part of it, and there was some glitch in the system that they'd identified. And when they did, the public servants came and said, listen, we're embarrassed by this, but this is an understatement. And even with that said, there's $700 or so million that still can't be accounted for in the supposed $3 billion understatement proposed. You understand? So if you're presenting $3 billion as an understated figure, and you can't provide documentation to substantiate this $3 billion, the Auditor General, to me, cannot sign off on it unless there's documentation to support what you're saying.
Auditors are always very specific that you have to provide documentation, otherwise they're going to give you a qualified audit.
Yeah. Or not take it into consideration.
Yeah.
Because it's imaginary. until documentation is provided to support it. And these are the national, or this is the position we're talking about here. So the station is Me TV, METV. I forget the numbers on Digicel and Flow and all of that.
It's 111 on Flow, 20 on Digicel.
So 20 on Digicel.
Yeah, as a younger person here, I could remember. So it's 111 on Flow and 20.
You and your mayor. You and your mayor young.
Well, you went quite there. You went to dragging.
What are you talking about?
Oh God, hey.
Right. Firearms missing in national security. Interesting. 14 firearms went missing, were lost or stolen between 2018 and 2023. What was surprising to me about that? Congratulations to TTPS. They and the Coast Guard lost the least amount of firearms. But 8 firearms went missing from the TT Defense Force between 2018 and 2023. So when the Minister Hines was asked by your godly servant about how and all of that, he said, well, you know, sometimes they're in training operations and things fall into the sea.
What?
Or something of that nature. An operation and a training. You know, it is very disturbing to me that in a regulated environment, as regulated as the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, and the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, don't usually use handguns, they use sophisticated weapons. They have handguns also, you understand? Revolvers. But they didn't specify what types of weapons were lost. But given the fact that, is it a Galil was lost last year? Or some AR-15 or something was lost and that just shut down and looked for the thing after some time? Not so?
That was from the Army?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that went missing, I wouldn't surprise the other high-powered weapons that went missing. So to me, 8 weapons gone missing in 5 years. And the TT Defense Force makes me ask, what's going on? What going on? Lost, stolen, or missing? Oh yes, missed 8 weapons in the Defense Force. How?
And they were usually very aggressive when weapons are missing, because they do these big hunts and they usually get them, to be fair to them.
Yeah, they usually do.
They get them back.
Well, they're still lost, missing, or stolen. How?
I can't answer that question, sir.
How? I don't know.
Crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. It's very, very crazy.
Especially in a time where Trinidad and Tobago is going through this crime.
That the state security agencies, well, 14 weapons were lost overall, but 8 from the TT Defense Force. 8? I got the paper in front of me, so I can't better write it down while I'm scribbling it. Let me see. It must be in one of the papers today. Let me see. Okay. It's
not on the front page.
No, it's in the news day. All right. In terms of legally issued firearms between 2018 and 2023, Hines said, for each of the years respectively, 3, 7, 6, 11, and 9. Right? So that is private citizens. But they unfortunately held to a different benchmark. When it comes to the security services, right? Where's the numbers here? For the prison service, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 2. So the prison service is doing quite well comparatively. The TT Defense Force is the one to me of greater concern. Where for 2018 it was 1, 2019 2, 2021, 2021 1, 2022 1, and 2023 2. How are you losing guns so? In every one of the years under consideration from 2018 to 2023, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force lost at least one gun, sometimes two. How? How? And you see, the defense was such a closed circuit in terms of their disciplinary measures, that you ain't hearing nothing about that.
Yeah.
You ain't hearing nothing about that. So they will do what they have to do inside there, and there's no requirement unless you ask them in a GSC what was done to divulge in this. So we have our internal investigation process. It's always on the way. And yes, John Cato, thank you. It was a Galil. So if they could lose a Galil or it was stolen by the soldier or whatever happened with that, we never get the final report made public. What happened to the other 7? And what kind of management and systems and protection systems is the TC Defense Force undertaking that they could lose 8 guns in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the 8 might seem like nothing compared to the criminality we're seeing, but that is a significant number for an entity like a defense force. Anyway. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder this little place.
I just wanted to go through some of the messages that people are taking the time to send. If you don't mind, Paul.
Absolutely.
So I will just start a little bit, maybe from Ian Andrew Noalo Lee. Good morning from Istanbul, in Turkey. You know, I have a couple of friends in Turkey. I have a cousin who used to live in Turkey. I don't know if she still lives there. Trini in Boston. Good morning. DL says, I'm glad that these 5 choose country over party. We need this to prove a point. Listra Lodge says, morning and blessings to all. The smoke on the Arab Highway before Charlieville yesterday afternoon was terrible.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Ewart Raj Paul says, good morning, gentlemen. Terence Brown says, government decides what vote to bring to the floor. If they don't have the numbers, they just won't bring it. Echo Room Inspire. How does a screening committee work? Does Kamala have final say? Well, both parties, Echo Room Inspire, claim it's a very democratic process. But as I always tell Wendell, who the head honcho wants, the head honcho gets.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want for screening committee.
Ultimately, it comes down to that.
You could tell me the screening committee wants something and the both leaders don't want them and they getting through? No.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Knights, even if the 5 were in Parliament, the bill would have still passed with the vote of the President. Anita Haynes Allen sought and was given permission to be on leave from the Speaker from that sitting. Kamala and her Chief Whip, David Lee, is to blame. Echo Room Inspire says this is going to be Kamala's 4th bid for Prime Minister. Real Madness. Ellen Keith says, good day. Can you repeat the TV stations? You can view, you can be viewed on, please. Maybe you should put it in a ticker tape. So
I will. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's Flow Channel 111, Digicel Channel 20, and Amplia Channel 117.
Oh, it's Steve Richard Dante, yeah, all already slow down now. For what?
111.
Mm-hmm.
Digicel Channel 20.
Mm-hmm.
Amplia 117.
Right.
On Facebook, on YouTube, on the Power 1 and 2.
You know, a little old, Richard Dante say it already.
Right. Andre, did the minister indicate who will be conducting the independent investigation? I don't think he did. Did he?
I think he said he called the head of the public service and asked how to proceed.
Okay, but I don't think he specifically identified anybody. Carlisle Cupid, who can say that we don't have an Auditor General who exercises her independence? Well, you should be independent in that post. And auditors tend to be very independent, huh?
But they have to be.
Because you have to be. Terence Brown, Why did the Auditor General refuse to see the client, especially since they are the ones who are supplying the figures? Well, I don't know if she refused to see them.
Initially, yes, that's the report.
That was the report. Okay.
Yeah.
I know auditors. I can't explain that part of it, but I know auditors are very specific and can be very independent. And trust me,
I think they have to be as part of the requirement.
yeah, and trust me, what an auditor wants, an auditor gets, because else you are not going to get your audit completed, or you will get a very qualified audit or damning report. Helen Keith, thank you. John Cato, yes, the Galil was stolen by a soldier of the TTR. A Corey Gilks. Perhaps you mean the TT Regiment. The Defense Force comprises of the Regiment, Coast Guard, Air Guard, and the TT Defense Force reserves. And the regiment does not use revolvers, although they, like the Coast Guard, should have old ones still stored away. Automatic pistols are the standard. And yes, some do get lost in training, and some have been lost under clearly suspicious circumstances. Sean Victor, the methodology used for these committee meetings are unproductive. They do not validate TTPS's strategic and operations management to enable desired outcomes. Lester Cragwell, Paul, the pastor had a whole TTR generator in the forest. Sean Victor, a lot of times, and taxpayers' money invested in these reviews that do not guide preventative and corrective measures nor enhance performance. David Frost, Paul, good morning. I'm lost. Was another gun lost? Terrence Brown, one is too much. Andre, given that it's public officers involved, it should be conducted by the Public Services Commission, but the minister said that independent investigation would be done and sent to the commission. Sean Victor, instead of focusing only on guns falling in the sea as a spectacular issue, the choir and deputy chair should inquire on the management system controls to address
the chair and deputy chair should inquire on the management system.
It's showing my boy.
Yeah.
You said the choir, sir. It's the chair.
The chair. The chair. What are you saying on right now? The chair.
Oh, I said the choir, sorry.
Yeah. All right. Let's get in the headlines, gentlemen.
Cognitive break there, boy.
Yeah.
All right, 6:48. Good morning to you all. Thank you for being here. Let's roll through the newspaper headlines this morning.
You want me to go through
them? Papers?
I do, actually.
All right, okay. Let's do it quickly.
Got them early this morning. The Daily Express for today, and today, of course, is Thursday, April 30th, 2024.
Jeez, what is wrong with this boy today? It's Tuesday, not Thursday.
What did I say? What is wrong with me? Sorry. Tuesday, you know, I'm busy, my mind busy saying, okay, it's the last day of the month. Tomorrow, you have to say rabbit. That's where all my brain going while I'm reading it. So Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. Falsehoods under probe. That's on the Daily Express this morning. IMBA announces investigation into whether Finance Minister or Ministry backdated amended accounts, which you kind of touched on this morning. So it's under probe, but I don't know if the article actually indicates who the investigative team would be, but certainly it's on the front page of the Daily Express this morning. Judge, state failed child porn victims. I'm not so sure what that story is about. I don't know if you know, Paul.
No.
I have no clue what that's about. But it's a subheadline. Judge, state failed child porn victims. That's it for the front page of the Daily Express. That's actually the only two headlines. On the back page, clubs open to West Indies Championships, but splash the cash. Inside, Clark Road stay on top. Barcelona whip Valencia 4-2. And Butterfingers is the main headline. I mean, not the main headline. The caption for the picture. This is Lizard Williams. Let a catching chance to dismiss Kolkata Knight Riders in the Indian Premier League. So apparently he missed the catch. That's it for the front and the back of the Daily Express. The Newsday for today. Front page. Too much NICU death coverage. Neonatal care expert. Vulgar narrative hurting babies' parents. So that's a headline on the Newsday this morning. Some headlines: ex-minister, Auditor General did nothing wrong. I'm not so sure who's the ex-minister that said that, but let me find out quickly and tell you. That's page 7. Mariano Brown is the one.
We had to move a little faster.
And we're speaking to Mariano this morning, I believe.
Yep, coming up at 7:15.
And the main picture is of people enjoying coconut water and jelly on Tony's at Queen's Park, Savannah, Porter's Speed.
You're moving too slow, sir.
Yeah.
We're out of time.
Yeah, you speed it up, Rich.
And on the back page of the Newsday, ex-West Indies players receive US $500,000 after 10-year wait. Marie, it's good to be remembered. And the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today on the front page, Auditor General report impasse. Who lie is the headline. Imber seeks to get to the bottom of the issue, orders full proof amid conflicting claims, warns appropriate action will follow. Shark attack, victim to be flown to Miami, and teen dies in fiery sharp flare crash. On the back page of The Guardian, Campbell's suspension ends in August. And that's it for the 3 dailies this morning.
All right, well, let's get the results of our morning poll from yesterday, where we asked you, do you think the Auditor General should revise her audited report to the Parliament as is being requested by the Ministry of Finance? That was our poll yesterday. I'll give you the results right after this.
Know and reduce your risk. Do you know the hazards around your home, your work, or where you traverse regularly? Are you prone to impacts caused by hazards like flooding, landslides, high winds, rough seas, or bushfires? All of these can affect your household, business, or place of worship during a disaster. Remember, it's not just your home. You must also consider the hazards where you work or regularly travel. For example, your home may be at risk of a flood, but while driving to work, you might be at risk of a landslide. Do you know everyone, as in all of Trinidad and Tobago, is at risk of earthquakes, tsunamis, or even an explosion? Plan ahead in order to reduce your risk before, during, and after a crisis, an emergency, or when disaster strikes. Follow us on the ODPM's social media pages to learn more on how you can be prepared, be secured, and be ready.
All right. Do you think the Auditor General should revise the audited report to the Parliament as is being requested by the MOF, the Ministry of Finance? Well, the results are in. 63%, 63 said yes. All right. Coming up in a short 6 minutes time, we do have major news with AV, all powered by Genesco Appliances. Let's get into this morning's poll. All right.
I'm hearing fingers typing up.
I'm hearing fingers typing up as well. Typing up a storm. It's Super Paul at work.
My suggested question is, do you think the 4, and I'm saying 4 because Rodney Charles has already said that he is not offering himself up for candidacy. Dissident, and I'm putting it in quotations, UNC MPs will be chosen by the screening committee when the UNC is screening for candidates for national election 2025. Is that okay with y'all?
Yeah.
All right. Start dialing 222-8255. Toll free. North Americans 866-525-1099. Once again, Rich, our morning poll.
Do you expect the 4 dissident UNC MPs will be chosen by the screening committee when the UNC is screening candidates for the national elections? Yes or no? That's our poll this morning. So 222-TALK, 222-8255, North Americans 866-525-1099. And may I remind North Americans that that's absolutely toll-free. People on the web app and all of our streaming platforms, you can send your vote via the messaging portals there. And of course, those who are watching us on television, whether it be Amplia, Flu, or Digicel, you can WhatsApp us at 868-318-1021, and we'll get your vote. So do
Let's
you
see.
expect the 4 dissident UNC MPs will be chosen by the screening committee when the UNC is screening candidates for the national elections for 2025, which is not that far away?
No, blink of
Let's
an eye, I'll be
begin the
there.
voting.
Lester Craigswell says no to the poll. John Cato, no. Shanifa Ali in Grandy says yes. Julia S. Batiste says no on YouTube. Eco Room Inspire says no via YouTube. Show and Co on YouTube says no. Ish out in Malik. No. Andre, no. Miss is R, no. Michael Robinson in Yokohama, Japan says no. Val on WhatsApp says no. Bobby, morning, Bobby. Didn't realize that was you all the time. Says no. And then I have Jaron Joseph says they will not be chosen. All right. Let's see. Lennon Roberts says no.
So our poll this morning, do you expect the 4 dissident UNC MPs will be chosen by the screening committee when the UNC screens candidates for the national elections in 2025? Do you think they'll be screened? Yes or no? That's our poll.
Screened. They'll be screened, but they'll be chosen as something
They
else.
won't be chosen. That's a different story. Sexy
well,
San Fernando says no way, Jose. Carol Guevara says what? No. Okay. Let's see. Reginald says yes.
So do you think they will be chosen? Did you go through all these votes here, like Shuin Kerr and Mrs. R and all of them?
Yeah. Finbar Collins says no. 222-8255, toll free. North Americans 868-525-1099. Morning to Lorna, Indy, Carly. Morning to you all. She says Flow HD, it's channel 109. Thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
So good morning, Mrs. R.
Beauty Culture says no. Mario Joseph, no, they won't be. Slick Money Grip says no. Josie Richardson says no. Kenny out in Harlem, I say no to the poll. Thank you, Kenny in Harlem. All right. Call us.
So our poll this morning, do you expect the 4 dissident UNC MPs will be chosen by the screening committee when the UNC is screening candidates for the national elections in 2025? That's our poll this morning. You have about a minute again to vote.
Yep, less than a minute.
Yeah, what do you say?
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I have, Good morning, Lorna. No to the poll. All right, Lorna.
Any on WhatsApp, Steve?
I just said Lorna.
Oh, she was from WhatsApp.
You can WhatsApp at 318-1021. 318-1021. Anthony Miguel says no. Thank you, Anthony. All right, so we're up towards 7 o'clock news, all powered by Genesco Appliances. Let's see, anything coming in here? I have nothing there.
I think Anthony Miguel says no. Did you read him?
Yep, I did.
Okay.
I did.
We're about to answer the 7 o'clock news, but you can continue to vote on this poll during the news, and we'll count those votes before our final tally just after the news. And then, of course, you can vote throughout the day, through our programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, which will be Wednesday, and
Yeah,
midweek
hump day.
already. Yep. As we zoom towards the weekend, and love is a walk at Cipriani College this weekend. Get your
Glo-
ticket early. Trust me on this.
Gloria Gray says no. Black Pearl says nope. All right. Adrian Cotto says yes. I don't think Evie is wearing a watch today. All right. So keep those votes going. It's going to be up on our mobile app and on our website. You should have our app by now at Power 102 Digital, whatever platform you're on. All right. Clifton Simpson. Okay. He's asking why the British tourist is being medevaced to Miami. That's his choice. That's his choice. And then he'll be flown back to the UK. All right.
So our poll this morning: do you expect the 4 dissident UNC MPs will be chosen by the screening committee when the UNC is screening candidates for the national elections in 2025? As I said, you can continue to vote during the news, and we'll give you the final results, at least for the morning part of the poll, just after the news, which is up in a few seconds. And then, of course, as I said before, you can continue to vote throughout the day through our programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, bright and early, when we're about to poll. Shima Paul just said no to the poll. And of course, just reminding you that theaters on this weekend. Love is a Walk at Cipriani College on Saturday at 8:30 and Sunday at 6:30. We've been getting excellent reviews and excellent word of mouth. I mean, people have been raving. In fact, people have seen it more than once. Anytime you see people coming to a play more than once, you need to see the play.
Trevor Rima says no. All right, keep voting.
Yeah, keep voting, keep voting. As I'm saying, once people are coming to see a play more than once, you know. And the reviews have been excellent. You can check RSRR Productions Theatre on Facebook and Instagram to see some of the comments from people who have come to the play. It is absolutely, incredible comments. Some saying it's the best thing we have ever done. Some people are even saying that they are just think it is incredibly funny from start to finish. So you should not miss it. Love is a Walk. And tickets are available at all our outlets, all the usual outlets. And of course, the box office at Cipriani College opens from 12 noon tomorrow, 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. But tickets are available now at our usual outlets.
Steve, I'm reading the news. Let's go, please.
So we're on to the news.
All right, let's get into our 7 o'clock, well, a little late, 7 o'clock major news, all powered by Genesco Appliances.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
This is news to 7 a.m. right here on News Power Digital, brought to you by Genesco Appliances. First, the headlines. A probe is to be done into the controversial public account statements on TNT's revenue data for 2023. Independent Senator Hazel Thompson-Nye says the Auditor General, Jaiwanti Ramdas, is owed an apology. Concerns raised in the Senate about missing, lost, and stolen firearms for national security personnel. And a man with a sword is held after the public and police are attacked in East London. We have details coming up next. This 7 a.m. major newscast is brought to you by Genesco Appliances Limited.
My mom deserves the best with Genesco Appliances. They have just that for her this Mother's Day with appliances that boast double the features. Save 8% on both our 7 cubic foot freezer fridge and 30-inch stainless steel rotisserie stove this Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day from Janesco Appliances.
And now on to our 7 a.m. newscast. A probe will be done into the public account statements, which detected an error in the country's revenue position data last year. The findings of the investigation will be reported to the Public Service Commission or any other relevant office holder for their review and appropriate actions. Confirmation of this from Minister of Finance Colm Imber during a statement in the Senate on Tuesday.
What is particularly disturbing is the statement in the letter from Freedom Law Chambers that the MOF, which as I said before, could be me, unethically backdated the amended public accounts to January 31st, 2024 to cover a financial mistake of unprecedented magnitude with grave financial, economic, and political implications.
In the Parliament yesterday, Tuesday, the Finance Minister explained he'd not prepare or amend the public accounts. However, he consulted with his staff at the ministry about the accusation of improper conduct at the ministry.
If the document shown to me is authentic, and the true date on the statement of declaration and certification of the amended public accounts for the financial year 2023, submitted by the ministry officials, is in fact April 16, 2024, and not January 31st, 2024, then a blatant untruth has been put into the public domain. This matter now requires a full independent investigation.
Last week, Friday, a government motion to extend the time to present information to the Auditor General was passed in the Parliament. This happened after the Auditor General reportedly refused to accept information seeking to correct a $2.6 billion understatement in Trinidad and Tobago's revenue for 2023. The motion stated it was necessary in respect of financial accounts for 2023, the period of time specified under certain sections of the Audit and Exchequer Act 6901 to be extended. Meanwhile, Opposition Senator Wade Mark called on all documentation and records pertaining to this development to be brought forward and provide full disclosure. Senator Mark claimed transparency on the matter is critical.
Can the minister indicate whether he's prepared, in the interest of transparency, openness, and accountability, to put on the table of Parliament, in the interest of full disclosure, all documents, all records, including the senior counsel opinion on this entire matter, so that our Senate and members here can have a better picture of what the minister is attempting to insinuate.
An independent Senator Derop Timal also wanted to know whether there was any evidence to indicate the statements were amended by January 31st. In response, Minister Imber said guidance and advice from legal counsel was being sought on the matter.
I have in my possession the copy of the statement of declaration and certification signed by the Permanent Secretary, the Controller of Accounts, and the Treasury Director. I'm not trusting my own eyes. I sent it to a senior counsel who looked at it as well and confirmed with me before I came to this house that the 3 signatures on the statement of declaration and certification for the amended public accounts for 2023 are signed in their own hand April the 16th, 2024.
And independent Senator Hazel Thompson yesterday said the Auditor General, Jaiwanti Ramdas, is owed an apology. Thompson said she was astounded that the Attorney General, Reginald Lamo SC, had told Ramdas she should seek independent legal counsel when she wrote to him for advice. At the Senate sitting, the government received support of 8 of the 9 independent senators yesterday on a motion to extend the period for the Auditor General to receive and examine the report of the finances and TNT. However, the independent senators voiced concerns over the imbroglio which unfolded between the Office of the Auditor General and the Office of the Attorney General and the Finance Ministry. 14 firearms belonging to national security personnel were lost, stolen, or went missing between 2018 and 2023. The information provided during yesterday's sitting of the Senate by Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines. Minister Hines indicated 8 of the firearms belong to the Defense Force, 4 to the Police Service, and 2 to the Prison Service. In a supplemental question posed to him, Minister Hines was asked for information with respect to the proper oversight of the weapons.
Related to the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, given that 8 weapons have gone either missing or reported missing, does the minister think that there is a problem in the oversight mechanism within the Defense Force related to these 8 weapons having been reported missing?
Based on information available, I would not jump to that kind of conclusion in all cases, but in some cases, it may be the result of inadequate management of the items, but in some cases, certainly it had to do with exercises at sea and circumstances would have developed, and it cannot be said that it was a lack of oversight in those cases.
You are listening to Major News to 7 a.m., brought to you with the compliments of Genesco Appliances Limited. In news overseas, several people, including 2 police officers, have been attacked by a man with a sword in East London. 5 people have been taken to hospital. The ambulance service says police say they were called to reports of a vehicle driven at a house in Hainault shortly before 7 a.m. British Standard Time. The suspect went on the attack other members of the public and 2 officers. A 36-year-old man is in custody. Police say the incident is not terror-related. London Mayor Sadiq Khan praised the police and emergency services for running toward the danger to protect others. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also reacted to the attacks in Hainault. Writing on X, he said, quote, "This is a shocking incident. My thoughts are those affected and their families. I'd like to thank the emergency services for the ongoing quick response and pay tribute to the extraordinary bravery shown by police on the scene. Such violence has no place on our streets." To end our 7 a.m. newscast, here are the headlines. Once again, there will be a probe into the controversial public account statements of TNT's revenue data for 2023. Concerns raised in the Senate yesterday about missing, lost, or stolen firearms from national security personnel. And a man wielding assault is detained for injuring police officers and members of the public. That has been Major News to 7 a.m. right here on News Power Digital, and brought to you with the kind compliments of Genesco Appliances Limited.
Mom deserves the best with Genesco Appliances. They have just that for her this Mother's Day with our appliances that boost double the features. Save 8% on both our 7 cubic foot freezer fridge and 30-inch stainless steel rotisserie stove this Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day from Genesco Appliances. Of course, our 7 o'clock Major News was brought to you courtesy Genesco Appliances.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All righty. Welcome back. Of course, weather-wise, it is 26 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 27 degrees at Crown Point in Tobago. In fact, yesterday at Piarco, the recorded high was 34.7. The Met Office is saying today is going to be mostly fair except for some early afternoon showers near western and hilly areas. There's a low to medium chance, 30 to 60%. Some of these showers could become moderate and or heavy. This evening will be mostly fair, but some brief isolated showers. Maximum forecast temperature for today, 34 at Piarco, 32 at Crown Point. And quickly, traffic-wise, where you think you're going to get traffic, you will get traffic. All right? Of course, I'm seeing there's one accident on the Churchill-Roosevelt Highway, westbound, and it is just by the Arangwes turnoff, by the Arangwes flyover there. So that's going to create some traffic there this morning. All right. Right. So welcome back, guys.
Of course, we are back on the Power Breakfast Show, streaming to you all over on different platforms and on television. And of course, I'm just going to give you the results for the poll this morning. And our poll this morning, which is no longer up for me to read, was do you think that the 4 dissidents will be chosen by the screening committee when the UNC is screening candidates for national elections in 2025. And the poll results are: we had 30 people voting on the poll this morning, and of the 30 people voting on the poll, 27 of you said no, they will not be chosen. You have no confidence that they will be chosen. No, yeah, nah, nope. And 3 of you said yes, we see, and all of the various ways you can say yes. 3 of you said it. You think they will be chosen. 27 said no. Of course, you can continue to vote in this poll throughout the day, throughout programming, and we give you the final results tomorrow morning. Just before we begin our poll for tomorrow morning, whatever that is. And it will be midweek. Of course, I see our guest is in Mariano Brown. We're not seeing him as yet, but he's streaming into the studio from wherever he is. And
at home. Good morning.
He said he's at home.
Morning, Mr. Brown.
Good morning.
Good morning, Marion Brown. I see you still getting dressed.
Well, I mean, I'm fixing the tie. I have to look good when I come
I'm glad you have on at least a tie.
Well, I want a little more than that.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Good morning, Captain Ron.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Good morning to you, Mariano.
Good morning.
What a week, Mr. Brown. What a week.
What are you?
You have been, I saw an article attributed to statements that you made to a newspaper this morning. You have been a senior public official and you've were minister in the Ministry of Finance for many, many years. So you would have had, you've been accustomed to this process of audited national accounts being laid, sent to the Parliament and laid by the presiding officers. What is your opening response to this development in the country?
Well, first of all, I've not only been in those senior positions, I've been on the other side too. In my earlier life, in addition to being trained as an economist, I also qualified as an accountant. So I am a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Certified Accountants of the UK. And I was vice president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants for approximately 8 years. I never became president because I was literally resident in another country at the time, and it was impossible to hold the 2 positions, be president and be in another country. So I gave up the role eventually. So the bottom line is I have background. I'm a finance person, and I've been a finance person for most of my life. I've served as a financial controller. I've also served as an auditor. Now, the constitutional position of the Auditor General is set out in section 8, I think, of the Constitution, subsection 116 or section 116 and 117. 117, she's appointed by the president, so therefore she's independent. Subsection 116, subsection 6, right, says that she's not accountable and cannot be controlled by any party. Words to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. Right, section 116, subsection 1 says she's entitled to the books and records and everything which is required to allow her to come to an opinion. Right. The Audit and Exchequer Act sets out in section 24 the deadlines and the time frames by which financial statements must be presented from the ministry to the Auditor General so that she can express an opinion thereon. And then the deadline is January 31st. So she must have all the documents by January 31st, and she's required to give an opinion by April the 30th, which is in time for the mid-year review. All right, so in the circumstances, what her job is to give an opinion. The accounts are not hers, but she has to verify them. She has to say whether they're correct or not correct. It's a binary condition. All right, do they meet all the requirements? And the Constitution effectively makes her an independent person, And subsection 116 is very clear. Her job is not to take direction. She cannot take directions from anybody in terms of the exercise of her job. Right, so nobody can come and tell her what her job is or what she must do. Right, over time, the Auditor General's position, initially, the position was not occupied by qualified accountants. In more recent times, she has become, or the person who's appointed the position has tended to be a qualified accountant. And the staff in the department qualified accountants as well. In this particular instance, the person is reputed to have had private sector experience as an auditor as well. So it means that she comes to the job with the requirements for the office. So let's get that out of the way. All right. In these circumstances, the Ministry of Finance, the Treasury Division, must send across or must give all the documents required to justify an opinion or to give a clear opinion. And her job is to give an opinion. Her job isn't to give a good opinion. Her job is to give an opinion. And the opinion may be correct. The opinion, may be a good one. It may be a bad one. It may be a qualified opinion. In these circumstances, what we are dealing with is a situation where the numbers which were first remitted indicated a total revenue position of 61 point whatever billion dollars it was. And subsequently, it is said, and this is what is coming out from the conversation, I don't think there's any argument about that so far, right, that there was an error of approximately $3.4 billion. All right. It appears that the Auditor General has attempted to verify the difference and could not do so, and in these circumstances issued what is known as a qualified opinion, right? Meaning that I've seen the numbers, but I can't verify this other part of it, as the case may be. I've not seen the report, so I don't know the full nature of the qualification. The reality is that she's entitled to an express opinion, and if she is not satisfied that the numbers are good, clear, and defendable in the circumstances, she's required to say so, right? Which is what has caused the problem. The difficulty is we've never been in this position before. Right? Generally, those accounts have generally been signed off without any sort of problem. I'm sure that there must have been situations in the past where there were areas in which the Auditor General may not have been happy, but subsequently information was provided to suggest or to diminish and or eradicate the person's reservations. In these circumstances, it seems that the information that has been provided was not sufficient as to remove those reservations. And in these circumstances, the Auditor General had expressed a qualified audit opinion and has not given a clean audit report, which of course is very embarrassing to the government. Right? So we have two letters, two pre-action protocols. And there's a constitutional problem here, right, where two independent bodies are at loggerheads. There is a leadership issue, which has to be addressed. The moral of the story is that the responsibility for preparing the numbers falls to staff who are under the control of or who report to a minister. So the minister is responsible in those circumstances. There's a management issue. The management issue is how do I manage the data, manage the information, and how do the managers or the specific day-to-day managers in those positions execute their job. And the leadership aspect is how do I address that issue and who takes responsibility for it.
Put a pause, Mariana, please. How material, in your opinion, are the circumstances in which the January 31st deadline, is it, for
Yes.
the Auditor General receiving the information according, and please correct me if I'm wrong, would have passed, which is after which the ministry officials sent this revised information about the supposed just over $3 billion understatement and the information in the public domain, which I can confirm or refute. The Minister of Finance gave an explanation last night that the Auditor General in the first instance refused to receive it because the deadline had passed, the statutory deadline had passed, and then subsequently received it, agreed to receive it and signed for it after a pre-action protocol was sent. And now today is the final day for the report to be sent to Parliament. It's already been sent. How material are those circumstances? And is the Auditor General required to, but I think it's probably a rhetorical question, receive even information that is significant, because $3 billion is significant, after the January 31st deadline?
All right. Well, first of all, 5%, a materiality number of $3.5 billion, whatever the number is material. All right, it's amongst the 5% in the total amount, so it's not small. All right, and I mean, at $3 billion, what was said last year was that we had a budget, so we had a surplus of $1 billion. So $3 billion could mean that you're in surplus or not in surplus, as the case may be. It also addresses the issue of the borrowing. What was the borrowing position? Whether the borrowing position was too high was high, or it was lower by 3.4 billion, 3.5 billion, So it does have a material impact, not only in terms of the report itself, but in terms of other knock-on variables, the debt to GDP ratio in particular. So that there are knock-on variables, and these matters are reported internationally to the IMF and so on, form part of the international monetary statistics. And we do have a responsibility to provide good, valid, and clean data. All right. So it has implications to our responsibilities in a wider setting. So it's important, right? And the 5% number, that 5% variation is important too. All right. It's not small. All right. Now, the constitutional issue with respect to whether she should receive information after the 31st. Well, I mean, you have to be on the inside of the department, understand the details and so on. But the general rule, from what I understand from former attorneys general, with whom I've had conversations with about matters such as this on an ongoing basis in the past, is that a creature of statute has no maneuvering room where it's set out in the Constitution. You will recall the imbroglio with respect to the appointment, not to the appointment, but with regard to the report on the appointment of the commissioner of police. Did the president, I think, was criticized because she has, her job is to receive the report, and her job is to pass on the report. Her job is not to arrange for a meeting that could influence the report. And I think those were the circumstances. Now, similarly, in the position with respect to the Auditor General is under the Audit and Exchequer Act to receive all the data by January the 31st. Right? So I don't think there's any dispute that the information that was presented as of January 31st was incorrect, or alternatively, there was an error which materially affected those accounts, and something was presented subsequently. Now, is she, in these circumstances, what would have been required? Well, if the information was presented lately, one way she could have dealt with that, or to deal with that, is to include in the report that I received X amount at this date, and this other information came subsequently thereafter, which technically I'm not supposed to review, but I have done A, B, and C. Right? She could say that. Right? The issue seems to be not so much that the information is received late, but that the information was not verifiable. That's the problem.
Well, I asked the Minister of Finance yesterday if he can confirm or refute that documents to substantiate the position that this is a $3 billion understatement was supplied, and he said he didn't know. I hope I'm not misquoting him.
Well, I mean, if he didn't know in those circumstances, that's the leadership issue, and that's also the management issue. The leadership issue is about taking responsibility, right? The management issue is making certain I'm aware of all the details and the facts, right? Leadership is about doing the right things, and management is about getting things right.
But isn't he doing the right thing now, though? Because he said that information came to him from public servants who were embarrassed to bring it up, and the error was
immediately once we cross that bridge, what we have is we have a real problem now. It's not my fault; it's somebody else's fault, right? That sounds like Minister Hines. That sounds like Minister Dayal Singh, and we could keep going, right? Everybody is responsible, but not responsible. Right. So the idea is your staff. You're responsible for the operations of the staff. You're responsible to give them directions. And the bottom line, if an error was made, and boy, we make an error, but we didn't really want to tell you. Hang on. Right. That's what constitutional responsibility is about. If there's an error, you have to say so. Right. You can't say it's the public servants and I'm not sure. What's that? That can't happen. Right. That's one of the reasons why ministers have to take somebody has to take responsibility at some end of it, Of course, staff make errors, but you have to. Here we are in this impasse. Right, the Auditor General is saying, "Hang on, right? There's a problem here with these numbers, right? And if you're coming to me to say X, Y, and Z, no, you have to verify. The law is the Constitution is very clear, right? Very clear. The Auditor General is entitled to see all books and records without fail in order to enable her to express an opinion, right? So if you made an error, you can't tell me, "Boy, I make an error," you know, but it's already everything okay now. Hang on, show me how the error was made. What did the error what caused the error? And if she's saying that you have been able to reconcile it and you can't come to a position, this is her position. This is her position. All right. So the bottom line, somewhere along the line, there have to be some element of truth in it. The minister can't come now and say, "Well, I don't know. This is what the public servants tell me." He has to be in charge of all the facts. He's coming to Parliament. He coming to Parliament with half knowledge. What kind of thing is that?
Well, interestingly, and to me, you know, in a responsible sense, if documentation cannot be provided to substantiate the proposed $3 billion increase in the country's position, wouldn't it be irresponsible for the Auditor General to add it to the books?
Precisely. She's put there and is meant to be independent. That's why it's set up that way. This is a check on the power of the executive and a check on the responsibilities of the executive. If she's she's just a rubber stamp, but what is she there for? She's not a rubber stamp. She's there to follow through with a very important constitutional responsibility, which is to exercise and verify that the ministers and the financial operations have done their job. And the act says very clear, you know, she says court documents, any public officer, any department, right? That's what the Constitution says. So she has an absolute right to the information, not partial information, not some of the information, right? But enough information to allow her to come to a conclusion. And in fact, it says all the information, if I'm not mistaken, under section 116, subsection 1. All right. So she
the state has now extended the time, which is what would have
well, the state has the capacity to vary the Audit and Exchequer Act, right? And it is vary the Audit and Exchequer Act in accordance with her circumstances, right? And the Audit and Exchequer Act says very clearly, right, that all the information must be presented by January 31st. Now, when we're doing an audit, now I speak as an auditor here, as having been in this position before, and I can say that I have run organizations which have received qualified audit reports. Right? But once I got a qualified audit report once, I get another one. I fix whatever I had to fix to make certain it didn't happen again. Right? And that's the position here. Right?
It's a qualified audit at this point.
It is a qualified audit at this point. It has to be. Right? And even if you adjust the law, that means to allow the information to be presented to her so she could consider it. The evidence would suggest, and certainly her pre-action protocol letter says that she did attempt to verify the information which was presented after the fact. The constitutional attorneys could deal with that. I'm not gonna make any statement. Let me just say that it is normal in verifying data that accountants, auditors look at what is called subsequent events. Were there subsequent events which were sufficiently material as to alter my opinion? In this particular instance, it is not a subsequent event. It was an error that occurred before the time frame that was not discovered. But what her letter says is that she was unable to verify the authenticity of the corrections. All right, so she said, you haven't presented me with enough evidence to say, look, this is right, and you can't reconcile it. That's what her letter says. And in those circumstances, right, she has to give a qualified report. She has to say, well, this is what I found, and this.
And at the end of the day, Mariana, is her signature signing off on that. So if she's not satisfied, it is her reputation on the line to have sign off on the proposed change or stick with her original position.
Correct. No, and here's the point, right? The constitutional responsibility and the constitutional architecture means that you are responsible for getting things done. So that's the ministry and the ministries and the departments. They are responsible for getting things done. My job is to make certain that what they're presenting is right, or what we call true and correct. Right? And there's another view, true and fair. So true and correct, true and fair, right? So I have to sign off and I have to make a statement to that effect, right? So that means you have to satisfy me. I have to be satisfied that the numbers are what you call it, are accurate. And in these circumstances, right, there is an error. I don't think anybody says that there wasn't an error. Even the minister declares that there is an error. He says, didn't he say that in Parliament yesterday? That there was an error?
Well, clearly there was an error. I don't know if I remember if he said it. But how material is also, and what's the possibility, Marianne, on, because there was a disaggregation of the figure from 2-point-something billion and 700 million or so that could not be accounted for.
780 million.
Right. How should and could the Auditor General disaggregate that if there was evidence provided to support the 2.x billion as opposed to the 780 million that maybe could not have been substantiated? Is that part of what a possibility is here?
All right. So from a technical point of view, there are 3 points that you're raising here. One, she could verify $61 million, $61 billion. And all the evidence suggests that she could verify $61 billion. The problem arises with regard to the additional 3.4. All right. The evidence, what the report says so far is that they were able to reconcile the 3.4. They know it is a 3.4 billion error. Well, I don't know exactly how you know it's a 3.4 billion error, but they could only verify 2.5 billion. All right. And they have another $800 million which they cannot reconcile. $780 million which they can't reconcile. Well, in those circumstances, the auditor could certify that 61 point whatever billion was received, or alternately 61 plus 2.5 billion was received. She cannot certify that 64 billion, the full 64 billion was received, because there's a problem. And I haven't seen any evidence. What her letter says, I didn't see enough evidence to satisfy the $3.4 billion either. That's what the letter says, right? So I attempted to do that. You said you reconcile it. Okay, fine, you reconcile it. But it is not, I am a doubt. The purpose of Auditor General is a doubting Thomas, right? That's the architecture, right? Her job is to certify that these things are right, or are true and fair, are correct, right? So when you present the number to the public, I'm comfortable with the number, right? Well, it appears that the ministry is not even comfortable with what you call it, with the 64 billion.
But should we be surprised that this is the part that's confusing me?
What is confusing
from the ministry technical perspective, they say they've discovered this understatement, right? It's embarrassing for them. They went to the minister sought advice, and now you're presenting to the Auditor General, the constitutional creature, of this understatement with a hope that the original presentation be revised. Isn't it like basic or trite to make sure that the evidence to support that is also supplied to compel, or to not compel,
but Paul, the Ministry of Finance,
let me just finish, to invite the Auditor General to revise her position?
But the Ministry of Finance must know that they have to present documentation to verify stuff.
Well,
that's my point. That's why I said it's trite.
Yes. And by definition, since the act says she must be satisfied by the number, and her job is to verify it. And if she says to you, I am not comfortable with the numbers, what do you do? You have to qualify the report. It's very straightforward. All right. You have to qualify the report. I mean, you could qualify the report. She has the options are: one, she can qualify the report for $800 million. All right. I have verified X, Y, and Z, subject to the fact that I'm not able to receive sufficient information to verify the sum of $780 million, which remains unreconciled outstanding, the evidence of which I have not been able to see. Or she could say the point, well, I could verify $61 billion, but I can't verify this other $3-point-something billion because I've not seen enough evidence to basically allow me to express an opinion on it. Well, I mean, the Auditor General has 3 positions. Right? I could certify 61 billion, but I can't certify the rest. all right, which is fairly straightforward. Or I could certify $63 billion if I had received the evidence, but I can't certify what you call it, the other $780 million. I mean, that's where she is. Now, the point is, in the circumstances, does she say that here's the point from the point of view of proof from an auditor's position. Hang on. You tell me you made an error, and this is error only affects you. How can I be certain that there were no other errors?
Yeah.
Right. That's her job to verify that. Yes, correct. So that's a very valid. So in the circumstances, there are issues, right? So the Auditor General, I mean, it is unprecedented. There are two things that are unprecedented. Well, not unprecedented. I can't say that's unprecedented because we have had the position of an Attorney General fighting with the DPP, right? So that's not what you call it. That's not unprecedented to have constitutional fights, right? That has happened, and I'm sure that those things take place behind the scenes. I'm sure in the past that the Auditor General there may have been situations where there were numbers which were slightly off, and they have had to find a way to reconcile it and come to a conclusion. Right? Clearly, the fact that she was prepared in her letter, as her letter warrants, to assemble a team to do additional verification work on the 17th of April, 13 days before the conclusion of the report, for us to verify. All right, you say the errors, I bring in a team. Let's just see exactly what takes place. Right? And the result would appear to be, on the basis of her letter, that she couldn't come to an opinion, that they weren't satisfied with the evidence that was given. Right? The Auditor General is meant to be a doubting Thomas and to be a skeptic, right? That's why there's independence, right? That's why there's separation of powers, right? You are responsible for doing the work. You have to convince me that the work is adequate and accurate. And if I'm not convinced, then I'm not convinced.
Do you think the statement that, well, there was a new system and the tax revenue was just part of it, and we didn't reconcile or disaggregate X and Y is an acceptable position given what's at stake?
No, it's not acceptable. All right. Systems are changed all the times. And before we run systems live, we have to do testing. And the purpose of testing is to determine whether it behaves in the fashion in which it should. Now, when you are testing systems before you roll them out, all right. I could give an example. All right, changing the bank's accounting software and running the system in. Right, so we actually went live, and in the process, an error was discovered. $25,000 was the error. Right, $25,000 was also $25,000 in cash. Right now, in the going through the process, we did identify where the error was. And we did identify who the responsibility was. But it turns out one of the supervisors in the department had isolated the $25,000, put it in a bag and put it separate. But with what intent? You didn't report it, right? So what happened, you think, happened immediately? She went home and the other person was responsible. She got suspended one time. Right? Because it's not your money.
Are we saying that this entire imbroglio because a beta testing went bad?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea, right? That is for the minister and the technicians, so basically to demonstrate how, why, when, and where, right? And I make the point that you ought to have done enough testing before you went into a live environment, and the live environment is subject to controls, right? The mere fact that this comes 90 days after the fact says that those controls weren't working very well.
But isn't this whole scenario, in a sense, indicative that the constitutional framework and that separation that you talk about works?
Well, I'm clear that it worked. I don't have any problem with the constitutional framework, all right? And that is also clear that there was an intelligent attempt to interpret the facts in accordance with the Constitution. Now, that's a matter for the constitutional attorneys to come to, because the constitutional attorneys, as I've said before, in my conversations with former attorney generals, one in particular, and I've had this conversation several times, right, the position, he takes a position which is very clear. A creature of statute, i.e., somebody who's created in the Constitution and has to operate in accordance with the Constitution, has no discretionary power. This position is absolute. Right now, other people have followed that interpretation because you're a creature of absolute. If it says shall, you can't. Well, not. That's it. You have to do it this way. This is the procedure that has to be followed. All right, and he's very clear on that. Now, in the circumstances, right, here we are. The data has to be presented to me by the 31st. So whatever you present by the 31st is what you present by the 31st. Right? Now, how I treat with it subsequent to the fact immediately means discretionary authority. Does the Constitution give discretionary authority in those circumstances? Right? Now, I'm not going to give an opinion on that because I'm not a constitutional expert. I can't say. But I could say that clearly there was an intelligent attempt to say, okay, good. There was an error, right? These are the numbers I've been presented with, but there's a material misstatement as a result of an error that will affect the numbers. Let me verify those numbers, which is what I don't think there's any argument that there was an attempt to verify the numbers, right? The argument is whether the Auditor General was sufficiently satisfied to come to a conclusion that allowed her to give a clean audit report, and the answer to that is no. And in those circumstances, she's entirely within her rights to issue a qualified audit opinion.
Mariana, what of the extension now? Even though there's an extension allowing the Auditor General's office to receive new information and also allowing the Auditor General past today, April 30th, to amend if she is so satisfied the report, I guess recall and amend. There's no obligation to change anything also.
Well, if they are changing the law in the Audit and Exchequer Act, they are changing the law in order to allow her to follow the procedure which they are now admitting to. In other words, that there was a delay, so we're changing the law to allow her to accept the new data, and we're changing the law so that it can be presented without breaching the law. No, that's what we call shifting the goalpost. Right?
Yeah, basically.
Right, they're shifting the goalpost because it says a material principle and material fact, right? So is it mean that the goalpost is going to be shifted forever, or is this just done once? Well, it looks like it's going to be shifted forever, right? And the part of the problem with these things is when, of course, you shift it, then other what you call it, material misstatements or other errors could crop up, right? So here we are. The goalpost is being shifted because an error has taken place. So we're making the law based on an exception. They have problems with that too, by the way. So I leave the learned attorney on your panel to come to some conclusion where that is concerned. So we are shifting the goalpost because an exception has taken place, and in order to allow the Auditor General to live with the change in the law, so that if the law can now be changed so it meets the material circumstances of the change. Right. So there you go. All right. So okay, that's a practical solution. I can't argue with that. Right. It's a practical solution. Right. The real issue is that we ought to have done all the work that was required as a routine and as a standard. We've done it in the past. Right. If they had some little shifts and so on that had to take place, right, then you have to have some of the shift. But the shift here is not small. This is a material figure. This $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion is like a what you call it, a Hyatt.
Well, it's material, as you said earlier on, for several different reasons. It is financial and economic, but it's also political.
Material is there are a couple of things involved. Material value is material principle. Right, it's a material principle, and that's what we're doing. We're making a change on the basis of we're making a change in principle, right? But the Auditor General has said, hang on, even if you change it, right, you still have to satisfy me. Right? I still have to be comfortable with these changes, right? And in these circumstances, consider now, right? So, all right, an error has occurred. I'm changing everything else to give validity, to allow validity to the error. You still have to. I would feel those circumstances. You don't think you would feel very uncomfortable?
Well, especially given how it's played out in the public domain.
Well, all right. So you're going to be very uncomfortable. This is a very difficult situation. I don't know that there's anything with I mean, I guess a political resolution is so that I could eventually end up saying, well, I met the requirements, right? And you get away. But the reality is that there's been enough churn as to raise issues of credibility, right? There are credibility issues here, and the credibility issues are not going to go away just like that.
Let's prefer two approaches here. One, the Auditor General is now allowed legally to accept and consider new information. And if she is so satisfied, change the report. And that, of course, the government will use that in the upcoming media review and all the international indices, including IMF, credit ratings, etc., yada, yada, yada. But if the Auditor General is not so minded and is not satisfied, the report stays the same. Because that's possible too.
Yes, that's possible too.
And the media review is coming up. How much does this affect the media review? And can the minister, if that happens, if there's no change, legitimately reference this purported $3 billion change in position revenue-wise?
But here's the problem. Credibility is a matter of trust. I mean, so you could change things and you could say, look, we changed them, right? The issue is, do I trust the numbers? One of the issues that crops up all the time in terms of the reporting and the comments which are made at government level with respect to the state of the economy is the following statement. Manufacturing grew by X% and manufacturing is likely to save us. Well, we have adjusted the standard we've adjusted our Trinidad and Tobago industrial classification to include the petrochemical sector as part of the sector. Mm-hmm. All right. So when the minister says manufacturing sector, all right, he's clearly referring to all of the manufacturing sector. But there are substantial weaknesses in a segment of that manufacturing sector. All right. So whenever he talks about positive developments on the manufacturing sector, it is dominated by the petrochemical sector, which, as we know, has between 40 to 50% of all the plants which are closed. Right now, that always gives me some degree of confusion, right? Because you're talking about growth and growth taking place and so on a positive future, but we know that 40% of the plants are closed because we don't have enough gas, or we could talk about the strength of the manufacturing sector. So there's a trust issue with regard to the numbers, and this is one of the issues here, right? Because fundamentally, when we're doing plans or the business community is doing plans or international associations are doing plans, they are depending on the quality of financial data and the fact that nobody has interfered or manipulated them. That is what it is based on. Right? But here we are in a situation where we are accepting and saying that we've moved the goalposts to facilitate X, Y, and Z. Is this a one-off error? Right? Can we be comfortable that this won't happen again and the numbers are not going to be stressed? I mean, those are all fun. Those are issues which speak to the issue of probity and confidence.
But as we have you here, and you segue so nicely into the energy sector and the U.S. pronouncement on the license issue and comments from Ministers Young and the Honorable Prime Minister regarding the American instruction for those who have interest in the Venezuelan oil sector to wrap up by X date. Mm-hmm. How much do you think this is going to affect us?
My position has always been very clear, and I'll repeat it, right? From 2016, I was saying we didn't have a project. What changed in December was that we actually got a license. So we now have a license. But unfortunately, whether you will be able to monetize that license is dependent upon all the other permissions that are necessary. And when this OFAC exemption first came through, I was clear that 2 years is not sufficient. Right? The evidence also suggests that Shell is of that opinion, because Shell, who owns 70% of that project. So in other words, that project is not going to go forward unless Shell says, I'm confident and I'm prepared to put my money in it. Shell has asked for an extension of the OFAC exemption for a 15-year period. Well, that tells me that Shell is not making a final investment decision until it receives an exemption for 15 years. No exemption for 15 years, no project.
But that's profound.
And that's your interpretation, or is that a fact?
Well, you could take it anyhow you want, right? The
Is it your interpretation or is it a fact?
Well, I can't say it's a fact. What I know is a fact is that Shell has asked for an extension, right? My interpretation is if it doesn't get the extension, it's not going to spend $1 billion US. I'm going to spend $1 billion US over 2 years, and I'm not going to.
They need to have sustainability guaranteed.
Correct. Well, what right-thinking person is going to spend $1 billion if you don't know, if you're not certain that you're going to get what you're?
But do you think we're exempt from that missive from the U.S. government recently?
Minister Young said it didn't apply.
Well, I don't know if Mr. Young is the U.S. government.
He said they've had favorable talks with persons on both sides of the political divide in the U.S.
Favorable talks with the favorable talks with people on both sides is not inside the OFAC office. You're spoken to political people who will bring a political position to bear at some point in time in the future, right? The reality is we have the unknown of a November election coming up, right? It could change. The change in political position could lead to a change in policy, right? You could have any amount of talks. How are you getting past that?
Well, even without the potential political change, the U.S. has changed its position on Venezuela.
Well, twice it changed its position when it gave the exemption, and it's changing its position back now. So, right, I can't say with any degree of certainty what the position is going to be in the 25th of October, 2025. I don't know. And in the circumstances where there is uncertainty, am I going to proceed to spend $1 billion? Would you, in those circumstances, right, assume that you're building a house, right, and you're building a house on which you're required to get a lease, but you haven't gotten the lease, right? Would you go ahead and build the house, or would you wait until
you get a guarantee of a substantial lease?
Well, you're not guaranteed. You want to make certain you have the lease in your hand, not guarantee. A guarantee doesn't mean to say that it will come true. You want to make certain until you have the lease in your hand. Now, I'm saying that Shell is in that position. Shell is the one that's spending the money, It's spending 70% of whatever is required to be spent. And in those circumstances, if it is not satisfied as the investor that the funds are going to come through, it will not spend it. Full stop.
Yeah. Mariano, what I suggest is we all buy more popcorn.
Pop. All right. Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your time and contribution.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
UK, you have a good day. Have a good show.
Same to you. What the show done?
Well, all right. Okay.
Time to go and drink more coffee and get ready for the day.
Take care.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Mariano Brown, for being on the Power Breakfast Short Power, and you did so. Thank you.
You all have a great day. We'd like to thank Genestra Appliances Limited and your good selves for tuning in on TV, logging on to YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and of course on the Power 102 digital app. Have a great day and be safe.
Theater is on this week, people. Saturday and Sunday. Love is a Walk is on at Saturday at 8:30 and Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Of course, it's the final two shows at Cipriani College. You should not miss it. I mean, we had excellent shows when we did it, not last week, but the week before. And I mean, packed houses at Cipriani College, and we expect nothing less this weekend because it has had incredible word of mouth for this play. Love is a Walk. You can check RSRR Productions theater page on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And of course, you can also get tickets at the box office at Cipriani College from tomorrow, 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily. Tickets are also available at all our usual outlets, K Squared Fashions in West Mall and East Gates, Electronics in Arima, Jubilee Railway into the Pune next door to Hussein's Roti Shop, Charfle Auto Services, and Tony's Florals in Valpark Shopping Plaza, which is just beneath the Valpark Chinese restaurant, and Creme Fresh in Brentwood Mall in Shogunas. All of these are outlets where you can get tickets. Have a fantastic day, whatever you do on this Tuesday morning, and remember to smile and laugh. It's great for your health.
All right, folks, keep it locked on.